Hello, good morning and welcome to today. Today is on Tuesday. As usual, we have our Legal Tuesday, but today, because today is the Jamhuri Day, we are calling it Jamhuri Tuesday, whereby we are going to have a deliberate discussion on the matters Jamhuri. There are many people who hear about Jamhuri Day, but they don't have information exactly what we are talking about. And therefore today we are here to enlighten you more on this day, to understand where did it emanate from and why are we celebrating today. And I believe also there are those who hear about Jamhuri Day and Madaraka Day. And today we have our guest, who is called Anthony Mwidaga, who has a vast history on this matter. He is going to help us to be able to check on these matters today. And our topic today is Kenya at 16. And we're asking you one question. Have you achieved the independence we fought for? Do you believe we have achieved the independence we fought for? Do you believe we have achieved the independence we fought for? You can talk to us on 23814 23814 or 0721 105 105 is our WhatsApp number. Do you believe we have achieved the independence we fought for? Karibu sana, happy Jamhuri Day. And as usual in this program, I have my colleague Mangicho Mola, who is right here. Mangicho, good morning and happy Jamhuri Day.
Happy Jamhuri Day to you, to my colleague Kagi, and it's good to see you today. Hope you're also enjoying this, the 60th Jamhuri Day.
Yes.
It's a beautiful morning, and we thank God again that we are meeting here now, because it has collided with a Legal Tuesday. And I know most people are actually on holiday, and it's also important for us to also enable our Kenyans to have some information, to have some knowledge and some education on what this day is all about. Maybe looking also back at the history. What was it like when we had the very first Jamhuri Day 60 years ago, and down the line so far, what is it that we can really say we've achieved as a country? What are some of the strides that we've made as a country? Where are we? And also maybe what is it that needs to be done? Again,
yes.
Maybe Kagi will also look at maybe what have been some of the challenges that we've encountered along the way. So I believe this is really going to be a very interesting discussion.
And I was remembering anybody who was born on this day, when we got the full independence, is celebrating his or her 60th birthday.
Okay.
Right?
So we are wishing them a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
We wish them a happy Jamhuri Day.
And I think they are the right people to tell us whether we have achieved the independence that we fought for,
right,
because they were born on that day. Yes. At this juncture, I want to welcome Mr. Anthony Mwidaga. Karibu sana katika MBCI TV.
Asante sana.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Long time. You're doing well?
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Hey, Mangicho is there.
Karibu sana Bwana Mwidaga. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
And we are here, and I believe that in this program we are going to enlighten our people, especially our young people who don't understand about our history. And just to start with, there are many people who hear about Jamhuri Day, and maybe as we continue can help us to be able to differentiate between Madaraka Day and Jamhuri Day. Maybe in your own understanding from the history, when you talk about Jamhuri Day, where did this day emanate from?
Well, Jamhuri Day came a year later after the country got her independence. We were a self-governing state.
Yes.
And a new prime minister, the first Kenyan prime minister, the Jomo Kenyatta. And a year later, I think, after agreements, it was clear that this country had to be a republic, which meant that then we would have our first president, who was Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Because Madaraka Day is about self-governance, Jamhuri Day is about becoming a republic. Unfortunately, and I think I've stated this on my FB page, I'm a trained teacher, and I used to teach history. We are the people who studied Mzee Safari. When you look at our social studies,
yes,
for whatever reason, because I think the reasons could be political, they've erased our history, so that when you ask a child right now, who was the first Kenyan Prime Minister, he'll tell you it's Raila Odinga, because that's the person they know.
Yeah.
We've not been kind enough to this generation to teach them our history. Because you look at the British history,
Yes.
we still talk about King Arthur, we still talk about King Henry, we still talk about Tudors who ruled England for 500 years. So it's a tragedy that our history has changed that to fit the current political leadership. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So what we tend to hear more is about what they want our children to hear, and then that's not our history.
Yeah.
Yeah, the history is not there anymore.
Yeah, if you look, as you have just likely said, that when you go to European countries like US, they are very good at keeping their history and training their children about history.
Yeah.
And you said that you are a history teacher, and for many years we have this history unit in our schools, whether primary or even high school. But it is not effective. Where are we going wrong to help our people to understand history?
We are going wrong because most of the people producing the so-called social studies books are business people. That is why our children's bags are full of encyclopedia. You're told to buy one today, buy another one tomorrow.
Yes.
And they end up developing back problems. I'm a witness to a child who has a problem. We have moved away from the history we knew about this country. And you know, if you look at the history they teach in America, in Britain, it is referred to as the world living history.
World living history.
Yeah, so that does not change. So that when you hear about King Henry today, you'll always hear him 10 years after.
Yeah.
You'll hear about the Tudors, you'll hear about King Alfred, you know. So we have decided to delete our histories. We used to talk about Matembeleland in Zimbabwe, Lobengula, right? Mzee Safari, Oleibon. Where is that history? They've decided to hide it for purposes of spreading their own gospel.
Actually, what you're talking about is very interesting, Bwana Mwithaga, because I remember even during elections and even during our political times, we've had leaders who have actually been accusing others of staying so much or focusing so much on the past. Even as we talk about this, what would be the importance? How does knowing our history help us in terms of even what we are doing and what we need to have at the present?
Our history should form the basis on which to move to the next level in the future. Because you see, if we don't have history as a country, it means then we'll not have learned the mistakes we made in the past to help us create a better future for the country. And so we've avoided that. So we've ended up making the same mistakes. Yeah. So this is when you hear history repeat itself, because we learned nothing from history. Yeah. You know, history is beautiful because it makes you cry. And
that's very critical. Looking at this particular history, Bwana Mwithaga, 60 years ago, for a Kenyan maybe who is very new actually, now that maybe even this information about how we became a republic, how we became how we internal governance, how we attain self-internal governance. What do you think, how was the picture like 60 years ago, even when we were now getting some of these things that our forefathers fought for?
The leaders of the 60s, well, you know, when this country started off in 1963-64, they were committed to service and humanity. Unfortunately, in the years gone by, we had leaders who allowed greed, egocentrism to become part of their so-called leadership. So there's a tragedy that the people we elect today are there to make money. It's all about self-aggrandizement, nothing else. And this is the reason why we've moved away from all the things we knew then. Because I remember the times when my father would come home, we look at his payslip and wonder whether he's still working for us. Because they were not after money. They were after leadership, to make sure that the people of this country are happy. After all, when you're elected as a leader, take an example of a president. You've been given a job. You're an employee of the people of the Republic of Kenya, right? The decisions you make, you've just been mandated to make those decisions on behalf of the people of Kenya, right? So the government per se is a board of trustees. Unfortunately, they cut very serious deals so that you end up with the president buying a Rolls Royce for 75 million, and they keep saying we don't have money.
Yes, and when we are getting independence, let me say Jomo Kenyatta had a very big vision to fight 3 things, if you can recall.
Yes, I recall that.
The issue of fighting poverty, the issue of education, knowing how to read and write, and also the issue of eradicating diseases. So those 3 issues are very key to any developing country. Because today we're looking at Kenya at 60, do you believe the 3 pillars that Mzee Kenyatta had for this nation, we can say that through Kenyatta himself, through Moi, through Kibaki, and through the Uhuru's regime, we have made good strides?
The visions of the founding fathers of this country,
yes,
were magnificent. It was all about people because, you know, you've been elected to lead people, not animals. So the decisions you make on behalf of the people of the Republic of Kenya. And they were able to identify the 3 things: disease, poverty, and illiteracy.
Yes.
The beauty about disease and illiteracy has been managed to a certain extent. But for poverty, they decided to keep it as a protege, to use it against their own subjects. So keep the people poor and rule them, not lead them, rule them. So that has happened throughout from the days of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta,
yes,
culminating into Moi became a tragedy. Kibaki seems to have done away with that. It doesn't mean that Mzee Kibaki, during Mzee Kibaki's time, there was no corruption. There was corruption. Then came President Uhuru.
Yes.
Then President Ruto. It's a tragedy for this country. And that is the reason why you find it hard for people to celebrate. I mean, we shouldn't be here. We should be out there celebrating. But is there a cost to celebrate? Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I come to Mangicho, today we are celebrating Jamhuri Day, or our 60 years of independence. Maybe to someone who is maybe watching us this morning, is asking himself or herself, what is this independence that we keep on talking every 12th of December, celebrating independence. What is this independence?
Kagi, let me reverse the question.
Yes.
Are you suggesting we didn't have independence before the colonialists came to this country? We were independent, only that we decided to imbue the colonialists' ideologies for purposes of appearing as if we're getting independence from them. No, it was not getting independence from them. We were getting our country back from them. Unfortunately, with time, we nurtured a new form of totalitarian system of governance called neocolonialism. So we've not moved away from that. And that's the reason as to why we are still slaves of what I would call ricket conscience.
Yeah.
You know, from the IMF to the World Bank, we keep going to them with begging bowls. It doesn't mean that this country doesn't have enough money. But when you walk up, when you take over the leadership of a country and tell us you found empty coffers, you're making yourself a laughing stock. This country is rich enough for all the people of this country.
But before you come in,
Sure.
just one more one. You have talked about the new colonialism, ukoloni mambo leo. Where does it come in? Maybe for us to understand better, where does neocolonialism come in?
Neocolonialism is now being practiced by the black people themselves, right? We condemn the colonialists for the tragedies they committed on the people of this country, but we are the same people, you know, who have managed to take them to the next level. You know, I'm sorry to say this, the next level of madness, because that's exactly where we are as a country. We don't seem to understand the beauty of responsibility as a nation, because ours, and especially for leaders in this country, is about the people. That's why we say we, the people. But it is we, the government, a board of trustees led by greed.
It's quite a very captivating discussion here, Kagi, because even before maybe we still come back to actually what is happening today, but still tracing back to those very days, Bwana Withaga, and there are those who believe, and I think there are those who are of the opinion that back then, even as the leaders that were then in charge or at the helm of the leadership of the country, they were together. There was that zeal of maybe really ensuring or trying to, and as much as possible, to make sure that everything works in the country. We've already talked about the three pillars, that is fighting disease, fighting poverty, and illiteracy. But do you think there is, to some extent, what we are having now, or the challenges that we are having now, related maybe to what the colonialists did to us?
Well, I don't think so, because we've just managed to keep to the ideologies. Why would we still be talking about poverty after 60 years? We have people who fetch water from the rivers to date, yet we have county governments, right? Money has been disseminated to the counties to reduce poverty. But when you have people still going to the rivers to fetch water with their buckets, right? The disappearance of interruption of unnecessary powers, electricity, and many other things. You can imagine how many street children we have out here. Yeah. And when you ask that question, you're a bad guy. Because you're not supposed to ask that question. You're supposed to be quiet and allow us to eat, in quotes. So do you think that will ever happen? No. We need to change our attitude towards leadership. What is leadership? Yeah, it's service to humanity.
Yes, and if you can still go back, maybe even now when you're actually becoming a republic, what do you think are some of the measures, if we can actually give credit to the very pioneer leaders when we actually do this self-governance? What are some of the measures that they put into place? What are some of the modalities that they put into place that maybe we can actually say they had very great ideas, they had very great plans, they had very great ambitions for this particular country?
The first government under Mzee Jomo Kenyatta had great ideas and had a good attitude towards leadership, because they talked about agriculture. We used to have agriculture extension officers who worked. You know, they were not asked to go out there to do it. They just do it because there's a job to do. Actually, that sort of commitment. Education, we used to have the Kenya Equipment Scheme that used to provide books to schools and to students. We had all these things in place. But the moment the next crop of leadership realized, oh, there's money to eat, they decided to raid our coffers to make them rich, because politics is about the money you have, the money, the handouts, the handouts you give out to people in order to get elected. And that's why sometimes you approach your MP and they tell you, see, I paid for it, so why do you want me to help you? I need to recover my money. I wonder how they recover their money.
So when you're talking about what Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's government did, are we talking just a matter of good political will? It is not necessarily that there were laws that maybe were put into place to guide the leadership then and ensure that things were actually moving the way they are supposed to.
The word is political goodwill.
Yes.
It was there. You know, forget about the Constitution. We are a group of persons who have committed ourselves to serving the people of the Republic of Kenya. How do we do it from here? You know, and definitely different from the colonialists. And I think they must have sat down and come up with a very good plan. And looking at the first cabinet, there's a mixture of all the communities, a representation of all the communities in this country, well, except a few. But they did a good job until when they realized that there's a lot of money to be eaten. Decided I will throw out some people so that we can have the opportunity to loot. Yeah, but initially they had good ideas. They were prepared to fight literacy and disease, and which they did. The only thing that they were up to date that has not been eradicated is poverty. And I said at the beginning that they've used it as a protege. You know, to keep the poor people where they are so that they can go up higher and higher.
Right. One of the issues that was very emotive when we were fighting for this independence from Wazungus, as you have just said, is the issue of land. Maybe according to your own understanding and history, how would you take it, the issue of land after getting independence? Did we get what you wanted in terms of the fair distribution of land?
I don't think there was actual fair distribution of land. You remember people like Bildad Kagia crashing with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. This is not what we fought for.
Yes.
Right? And Kenya being a capitalist state, then the ideologies of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, socialism, did not find their way into Kenya. Because they were wondering, if we allow that to happen, then we'll not have the land they have today. It's unfortunate.
Did it work in Tanzania?
Well, unfortunately, it didn't work for long. It probably during the first days of independence, or the first years of independence. Kenya is a capitalist state.
Yeah.
And a capitalist state is about myself and how much I can accrue. So it is hard to say, yes, it is emotive. The land issue is emotive. And this idea of land redistribution is what caused problems in Zimbabwe, when Mugabe realized that had promised the people we worked with, the people we fought for independence with, and they have nothing. So the only way was to hide behind the so-called land redistribution by stealing from the people who held the economy. And that's exactly what we have today, where we have people with 100,000 acres, 200,000 acres, and some of this land is idle. We are not saying that you grab that land from people. I'm sure we can have a proper dialogue in how it can be done. But you just don't walk into people's land and grab them.
Yes.
Sometimes after 60 years of independence, it's hard. I can tell you that. It is hard.
Yeah.
Emotive as it is, probably will end up in war.
The issue of squatters?
Because of absentee landlords, people went in. And sometimes it's hard. What you do as a gentleman, and I hope we all are, hoping that next time he becomes president, that he will consider squatters.
Yes.
How much land have they occupied? That's the question. Is it worth the fight? I don't think it is. Get a piece of that land they're occupying and give it to them. Keep the rest.
Okay.
Yeah. After all, there's nothing we'll take to our graves. Yeah.
On the same, you've given one suggestion on how we can be able to handle the issue of the squatters. This issue of land in our country, for example, in the last elections, it was one of the key areas about those who have a chunk of lands they are not using. In your own opinion, how can we solve the problem of those people who are landless in our country, right from independence up to this point? How can we solve this problem once and for all?
The idea of land is political. We use it during our campaigns. Oh, Kagi has 100,000 acres. Why should we be allowed to keep that? Behind you, you're keeping 50 acres. You yourself, you've not bothered to distribute that land. And I believe when Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was president, he came up with a very good scheme where people were, and especially the people of central Kenya who lost a lot of land, they became they were put in reserve so that the rest of the fertile land belonged to the white people. I believe we can still have more schemes because the government has land, unless those people planning to do that will end up keeping a chunk of it.
We'll talk about schemes. What are you talking about?
Schemes where people would be settled, like we have the Rongai scheme, the Sole Ranch scheme. We have land that government has set aside to give to people, but at subsidized rates.
All right.
It wasn't that expensive, so that you end up with a share is about 5 acres. And I think if we would relook at that model, I don't think we'd have any issues of land, and it will not be a tool of our political campaigns.
I'm trying to reason, Mangicho. If today you give Kenyans land for a lesser fee or maybe for free, the first thing you are going to do is to look for the buyer. You know, the time of the IDPs, they were given land by the government.
Then they sold.
But they sold the land. They were complaining that we don't have land, we have been resettled. They were given land, they were selling at a throwaway price.
As a government, you've done your bit. It is your role to make sure that we don't have a huge chunk of the people of this country being landless. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, that becomes one of the ingredients for revolution. Whatever Kagi or Mangicho or Mwedaga does with the land that has been given to him, that is up to him. You will never complain because it's on record that we gave Kagi 2 acres, we gave Mangicho 2 acres. That's entirely up to an individual. Yeah, and you know, we have some very strange manners in this country. Yeah, you are crying today about having no land, but tomorrow you're out there putting it on the market. So it's about individuals and their attitudes.
Talking about that, Bwana Mwedaga, still on the land subject, even as we look at maybe what is it that as a country we've been able to achieve for the last 60 years. Is it at the point of becoming a republic, at the point of having self-internal governance, that we missed the point in terms of how maybe Kenyans were supposed to maybe to be to share land, or maybe in terms of actually acquiring land and so on and so forth?
You see, it was the Jomo Kenyatta's government's idea to make sure they come up with those schemes. Because you see, when you have too many people crying out to you about land, it's also a recipe for chaos. So I think that's when they sat together and decided we'll have the land scheme. You know, we had Mr. Kehika doing it here, we have my father doing it in Defo, and people are happy. We may not have entirely exhausted the plan, but I'm sure any successful government should be able to revisit that plan to avoid having too many landless people.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
All right. And if you are watching us, this is MBCI TV. Today we are having Jamhuri Tuesday, and today we are talking about Kenya at 60 as we celebrate 60 years of independence. And today we are asking you, have we achieved the independence we fought for? Have we achieved the independence that we fought for? SMS us on 23814. 23814 0721 105 105 is our WhatsApp number. And today we are having Mr. Anthony Mwedaga, who is a governance analyst, helping us to be able to understand more about where we have come from as a country, where we are today, and therefore you can help us to be able to get this. And our SMS number is 23814. That is our ordinary SMS, and then WhatsApp number 0721 105 105. And if you have any question regarding to independence, regarding to our history, you don't understand about it, we are here with our guest today, who is going to help us to put more perspective on this matter. And we have looked at the issue of land, you have just heard. And after the break, we are going to talk about the issue of the tribalism, which is a very, very, very sensitive matter in this land, whether we have really done enough to be able to fight the issue of ethnicity in our land. You can also give your comment through 23814 0721 105 105. And Jamhuri Day is here with us. You can also tell us if you are celebrating well, wherever you are, and maybe you can tell us what is your sentiment about independence. When you're coming back, dear viewer, we are going to do more. We are together with my colleague Mangicho Mora is here, and I've just said we are going to talk about tribalism. You can also give your comment as we continue with our discussion today. You tell us whether also we have done enough to be able to fight ethnicity in our country today, right? When we come back, we are talking more about tribalism since independence. We will be right back after this.
MBCI Television, transforming lives. Discover the limitless opportunities in the world of applied and social sciences at Goshen Medical and Technical College. Are you passionate about making a real impact in the fields of science and social welfare? Look no further. Our School of Applied and Social Sciences has a diverse array of programs to match your ambitions. The precision of laboratory science technology or the compassion of community health development and social work. We've got a program that aligns with your dreams. Our programs are accredited by NEC and CDAAC, ensuring that your education is of the highest quality. A minimum grade of C- or higher is required for diploma courses, D plain or higher for certificate courses, and D and below for artisan courses. We also offer bridging classes for English, Kiswahili, Biology, Mathematics, Chemistry, and Physics, allowing you to choose the path that fits your career aspirations. Visit our campus today or call us at 0750-264-044 or 0723-047-468. For more information, check out our website at www.goshencollege.ac.ke.
Radiance Academy is a premier educational institute located in Nakuru County, along Nakuru-Nairobi Highway. We are a school that puts children's needs first, be it educational, spiritual, or emotional. Radiance Academy has the best junior secondary school in Nakuru County. We have modern classrooms, well-equipped science labs, a computer lab with computers connected to the internet, home science and visual arts workshops, as well as a modern library where our learners are able to access a variety of learning materials. For co-curricular and extracurricular activities, we have a modern sports room where learners engage in different indoor games, as well as well-made field that facilitates outdoor activities. We also have an auditorium for performing arts and many more. Our aim is to empower these learners to reach their full potential through a blend of excellence and personal development. Intake for junior school is currently ongoing for grade 7 and grade 8, and a few slots for other classes as from playgroup to grade 6. For more information, call us on 0707 07 1007 or 0704 63 62 75. Radiance Academy, instilling education and godliness.
Peace be with you. At Amara Realty, we believe in providing you with peace of mind. That's exactly what our latest project, Shalom Gardens Phase 2, aims to offer.
Located in the heart of Joskandovoine, this is an area with all social amenities you could possibly need and think of already here, just for you.
And that is not all. Invest in a project that is value added with the modern gates, as you can see on ground. We've also graded the roads for you, and we have electric fencing for your security. And at Amara Realty, size matters. Get yourself a quarter acre for only the price of 1.4 million.
Shalom Gardens Phase 2 is not just a piece of land, it's your peace of mind.
Amara Realty, for your peace of mind.
Apostle Dan Geshimo and Reverend Nancy Geshimo invite you all to a big tent meeting dubbed Mwega Evangelistic Revival Campaign from the 14th to 17th December 2023. The Evangelistic Revival Campaign will run from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day. The guest minister will be Brother Mwari, Reverend John Sedera, and other anointed servants of God. The theme of the revival campaign is derived from Matthew chapter 11 verse 28 to 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. It will culminate with an ordination ceremony of Hurrah ministers on the 17th from 2 p.m. To experience God's wonderful glory, make your way to Mwege Stadium in Mwege Town next to the Matatu stage. For any inquiries, contact 0111 20 7005. See you there.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back to the Jamhuri Tuesday. Today we are celebrating Jamhuri Day. Kenya at 60. Since we got our full independence, we are 60 years old. And today we are trying to see, as we celebrate our 60th birthday, are we celebrating this birthday when we achieved what we fought for from day one on 12th December? And today we are having my colleague Mangi Chomola and the governance analyst, Mr. Anthony Widaga, trying to dig deep on this matter. If you want to talk to us or asking any question, 23814. Our SMS number, WhatsApp number, SMS 0721 105 105. There are quite a number of people who are watching us. Edith Wafula is saying, good morning, Wangwana. Today I've been called Wangwana.
Good morning to her.
And she's saying, happy Jamhuri Day, Kenyans. And we are saying happy Jamhuri Day to you too. Yes. Do you have anybody else who is watching us, Mangicho?
Yeah, I have one here who is saying, happy Jamhuri Day to MBCI. It's team watching from Eldoret and is enjoying the show. Yes.
Yeah, if also you are watching us, you can tell us, I'm watching you live from wherever, Kapenguria, Mombasa, Kitui, Nairobi, wherever. Tell us that you are watching us this Jamhuri Tuesday. Yes, and we had promised to talk about the issue of tribalism, which is another issue. And I was not there that time, Mr. Widaga, but the history tells me that if you look at the way we fought independence as one people. Everybody, we come on board. From all corners of this land, every tribe was there. And even as you said at the beginning, the composition of the first cabinet could really reflect of our country that we wanted that time. And I don't know whether what happened along the way, because as we continued, short while, we started losing it. And where did we lose it? It also reminded me of one member of parliament from Nakuru. Was it Ochieng?
Yeah, Ochieng
Oneko, who was elected in Nakuru town that time.
Yes.
A place where it was popularly dominated by Kikuyus and Kalenjins, and it was a Luo. It can easily tell you exactly how we were at that time. Where did we lose it?
When we started enjoying the aroma of greed, you know, we allowed people to begin thinking along how to make wealth. They realize if Kagi is one person that who is opposed to the idea of becoming rich, then we need to get rid of him on the basis of tribe. And that is exactly our brand of politics.
Yes.
Today I want to become president. Now get onto the platform and use my microphone to do that. Forget about this tribe, forget about this tribe. Then when you get in there, the same person telling you to forget about these other tribes, they form a coalition of thieves, right?
Yes.
And they steal together. But back behind there, the story is very, very different. This is where we lost tracks, and we introduce a new ideology of tribalism. I don't think it exists among the top echelon of leadership. Yeah. It exists down here where we have the middle class and the poor. We are reminded that tribalism is a good thing.
Yeah.
And we fight while they don't fight. You know, at the end of the day, they'll sit down and agree and form a government.
So they use it to achieve their
political ends.
Political ends.
Yeah.
Their own selfish interest.
Very selfish.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope, I'm sorry to make this remark, I hope one day we'll wake up one morning and decide we've had enough of these people, we'll now go for somebody else, a neutral person, to save this country. And that will only be possible through a full-fledged revolution.
Yeah. And if you look today again, the issue of tribalism is always there. But let us now look at it the way it is today, or maybe even the previous years. What exactly can we do to be able to fight this situation?
You know, Kagi, we have what we call positive ethnicity. The reason why our leaders use negative ethnicity, the ideology of negative ethnicity, is because our people have forgotten about our history. We no longer look at the national values. What are our national values? That's the reason why we have the Kenya Music Festival. We have the Kenya Drama Festival. If we could have more festivals bringing people together from all communities, and it should be an activity that is throughout the year, I'm sure at some point people will begin looking at each other as buddies, as friends, as people. Because when you allow the issue of dividing people, this is why they wake up one morning, a guy whose house where you visit from time to time becomes your enemy, your neighbor, just becomes an enemy, and he was not an enemy the other day. So I think if we introduce festivals, we introduce sports and games throughout the year, because Kenya is a very interesting thing. You allow people to be quiet, for some time, not attending the festivals. Then you know how political we are.
And actually, Kagi and our guest Wanamudaga is actually reminding me, because when we have some of these events, when you have some of these competitions, maybe it's athletics, and it's a Kenyan that has won gold. You'll hear every Kenyan across the country, they are all praising them. If it is the national team, Harambee Stars, we know it is made up of players maybe from one particular community, who are many. But once they do well, all Kenyans will come on board. So Kenyans, at this particular level, they really don't have a problem. How is it that it becomes very quick for them to be manipulated by this
failed leadership? Yes, because this is in whose docket is it? Honorable Ababu Namwamba?
Sports.
Yeah, sports and tourism. These are the people who should come together and come up with a blueprint on how to go. On how to go about this issue. Because when people are busy with the music festival, the drama festival, sports and games, they forget about most of these things. But just take those things away from them, say for a whole year, like it was during COVID. They'll develop new ideas, and our ideas are political. So at the end of the day, I'm reminded Kagi is a Luya, Mangicho is a Teso, Mwidaga is a Kikuyu. It is a tragedy for this country.
And there's something that you had actually said, that initially, even when we were having the first government of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, even something like the cabinet was quite balanced, at least it would be a reflection of the entire country. And I don't know, back then it's like does it mean that there was no mistrust between the leaders? I can also even remember the days of when Kenyatta was still in detention. There is the story that Jaramogi told the colonialists that no, there is no independence if Kenyatta is still in detention. These are two leaders from two different communities.
And I still admire Mzee Jaramogi Odinga, may his soul rest in peace, because for one to sacrifice, the presidency is a beautiful thing. Yes. Although it's a burden on one's shoulder, you know what it means. For him to have sacrificed that bit so that Mzee Jomo Kenyatta will be released from detention to become the new leader is just love, is a demonstration of love. You've heard what Apostle John William Kimani talking about love, right? That is love. And if you allow love even to work in a government, I'm sure all the things we are seeing today will not be happening.
Do the colonialists have anything to do with our negative ethnicity?
Of course, because that is when now we develop.
They planted the seed.
Yeah, they planted the seed. And somewhere along the way, we realized we can develop our own type of colonialism, which is called neocolonialism. So structured within what they used to see then. And probably became worse, because neocolonialism is actually a form of slavery by the black people you know, and it's a very dangerous thing. Yeah.
And in the successive governments, before Kagi, you come in the successive governments, Bonamitaga now, it is something that has really troubled so many Kenyans. And that is why even in our subsequent elections, it's done in line with who is this particular leader and what ethnic community are they coming from. And it's all about, if I get this community and I get this other community and we do the maths, we have a very, very high chance of actually clinching this particular seat.
My prayer is that one day we'll wake up before the sunrise and we'll have a Kikuyu representing Kisumu constituency, right? A Luo representing Nyeri constituency, because that is the beauty about positive ethnicity. Right, we have Mwindi in Meru, isn't it? There's the Asian guy in Kisumu. We have Jeanette.
In the last election, we had Mwindi again.
If we can have that reflected, you know, throughout the country, I'm sure some of these things will go away. So today our MP is a Kikuyu, but this is a Luo community, purely Luo community in Kisumu. We'll begin changing attitudes. And you know, if the current political leadership realizes that's the direction we are taking, believe me, they'll crush it.
And funnily enough, Kagi, because it's a perception, although we've always wanted to ask, and maybe one of them can also even help us, is it a perception or is it a reality that when you have a leader from a particular ethnic community, it amounts to that particular ethnic community being ahead of the others in terms of development?
Allow me to say this. Uhuru was our president. I mean, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was our president, our first president. Are you suggesting all Kikuyus got land? Why were they still talking about land? Right? We had Moi. Well, all Kalenjins, you know, a beneficiary of his presidency. We had Uhuru Kenyatta, Moi Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta. You know, now we have Ruto. Are you suggesting all Kalenjins will get land for free? You see, a leader is a symbol of national unity. Right. First and foremost, is a symbol of national unity, bringing all communities together, you know, allowing them to see him as their leader, giving direction, listening to people. Unfortunately, most of our leaders don't listen to people, and that's a question of a dead conscience. Right? So if we allow a leader to become the symbol of national unity, then I don't think we'll have an issue of our communities benefiting. Are you suggesting if I become president, all Kikuyus will have money in their bank? No. People have to work, right? People have to work for their money. People have to work for their land. And that's the essence of good leadership. Because when you teach people that when I become president, the idea is to steal, it's at the expense of all the other communities, and they will rise up against you.
I want to make some submissions here, Mangicho. Number one of the easiest ways to be able to fight tribalism on this land is through the academic line. For example, the reason why the Ministry of Education should work hard to be able to post students in various counties is a way of maybe fighting the issue of ethnicity in our country, whether it is in our universities or in our high school. For example, we are waiting for Form 1s to be posted in various schools. And if we are not careful, if we could use this opportunity to be able to distribute our students in various counties. For example, if you come from the Turkana County, you can be taken to Bomet County. If you come from Bomet County, you can be posted to Kiambu County, like that. You can be able to fight tribalism. But if you still retain a place where a boarding school is dominated by a 90% one tribe, then we are still losing the mark. If you go to our university, the same. We should make sure that our universities are equally dominated by every tribe.
I think for universities, Kagi, I think we've achieved that. Because if you look at public universities, Nairobi University, University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, they admit students from all places, from all areas in the country. Again, even for our high schools, like national schools, talk about Alliance, I think we also get students.
We still have some institutions which are having the same challenge. Okay, for public universities, we are really very far. But also the private universities, because they have a very key role to be able to assist us, they should also use the same policy even private universities, to be able to absorb people from ethnicity across the country. Yeah.
There should be a deliberate political ideology, because the other day I saw people from Eldoret apologizing to Professor Laban Airo. I don't know whether you saw that.
Yeah. It was quite shameful.
It was shameful because these are public universities. You see, anything that has me, you, and other people coming there for purposes of acquiring education becomes public. Right. I don't know this word private when we be able to remove it, because even the so-called private universities, the people who go to those universities are members of the public.
Correct.
Right. So they apologized to Professor Airo, but it was, too late, because they already taken up a job at Daystar University.
Yes.
Right? But all that was a result of, and I'm sorry because I'm going to mention names here, Governor Mandago, because they thought Airo was a Kisi. Only to be shocked that he's not a Kisi, but a Luya. You see, that's negative ethnicity. A public university is a symbol. It's part of the national values, a symbol of national unity, where everybody is supposed to join
and remember,
for purpose of education.
It is until the leaders went to make the public, make the locals think that there is a problem with having this particular individual.
But let me tell you, Mangicho, the other reason, it was a hidden secret. It was all about connections within the universities, suppliers, people getting tenders. It was about who is who. But Airo, being the straight person he's a very honest guy. He would not allow some of those things to happen, because at the end of the day, he needs to account for every penny given to that university. You see, the buck stops with you. Like today, we have the president. The buck stops with him. If anything happens in this country, he'll have nobody else to blame, not even Gachagua.
Again, if you look at the institutions, then we go back to our counties. Today, there was a very damning report regarding to how counties are employing members of the civil service in the counties, whereby you hear if there's one county, it employs like 80% people from one ethnicity. But there's no equal distribution even in terms of employment in almost all of our counties, right? I think it can also clearly tell us, Mangicho, that we are not ready to be able to bring down this ethnicity.
I don't know how that was envisaged, even maybe in our constitution, now that these counties are also from the ethnic communities.
What is our constitution? This is a document, right? It's a document put somewhere on the shelf. If people are still mutilating a document that was meant to solve their problem to date, then we have a problem. That constitution only exists in what we call the utopia world. It's unfortunate that we have allowed that to happen, because the only way to solve this, I'm sorry to say it here, is through a revolution, a full-fledged revolution. And I'm not afraid to say that, because that's exactly where we are heading.
And who can do this?
It is the people. No, it's not the leaders. Our leaders will not do it. They are happy, making merry, right? Unfortunately, they're making merry. It is the people to decide we can no longer have this anymore. When we have children going to bed hungry, people missing meals, the idea of even a 3-square meal is a fairy tale for some people. People not having enough money to pay rent, or being able to send their children to school. That should not happen after 60 years of independence. And I say independence in quotes, because we were independent before
I love the way you're putting it. It is not that we were not independent.
Yeah, we were.
We were.
We had our kingdoms, the traditional kingdoms, and they worked well, right? It's only that we are reminded you have a problem which did not exist. So they created an artificial problem so that they could allow their new ideologies to take place.
And Mangicho, I think we still have a one symbol that really portrays that we no longer respect our independence, our national flag. You remember Mr. Munyao? How he really worked hard to be able to put our flag on the mountain? to show us that our flag is very, very important as a symbol of our independence.
Yes.
And there, some years back, no anybody who could go through a flag could feel the presence of our independence in the government. Even today, if you go along the routes and you find somebody, the flag is being raised. Everybody is just walking along, is just doing his stuff. But before, everybody knew, reminded us, now, this is our country. When you see that flag, you respect, you stand and wait for it to be raised. But today, nobody cares.
You know, our brand of patriotism is full of sulfuric acid, because we're not committed to it. And I agree with Kagi when he says that while walking past, say, a government office and the flag is being lowered, you'd stop, even without that man,
Yes.
blowing the whistle. You would do that because you're patriotic. You feel you own this country, you love this country. If this country were to go to war, for example, God forbid, with, say, Uganda, I'm sure we'd all become, we join the military to do that, defending our country because we're patriotic. But that patriotism is not there. It's not there anymore. And you know the reason why? The leaders have sought to dilute it through the sulfuric nature.
Are you trying to say that currently we don't have patriots in our land?
If they exist, they're probably lower than 0.10%.
That is true.
Because, people must... You must see them, as a community that loves the country. But who loves the country when we are going through what we are going through now? I mean, today we'll not be here. We'll probably in the stadium, joining the rest of our Kenyans, enjoying every bit of it, watching the traditional dances, listening to speeches. I don't know whether you ever got a chance to see when Mr. Jomo Kenyatta would get onto the podium, the entire stadium would be quiet.
Correct.
Right? Charisma and a reflection of patriotism. You didn't have to wake up your neighbor to go to the stadium to do that. But today, somebody is telling you, I don't have time for that. So
is it painting a picture of people maybe having lost the faith in their government?
Faith, hope, and diluted national values.
And Bwana Mudaga, actually, when you're talking about that in relation also to patriotism, because again, Kagi, we have this particular celebration every year. The government actually spends a lot, invests a lot, even in terms of actually even having a celebration like today. But it can be very unfortunate that the government is actually spending it, really going maybe to, like today they are now at Uhuru Gardens, okay, and they are there. We have also other heads of state from other governments, from other countries that have also been invited to also witness these particular celebrations. Are we really saying that the government is out of touch?
It is. What are these holidays for? Jamhuri Day, Madaraka Day is a moment of reflecting on where the country has come from and the country is going. It is as simple as that. This is where we were 20, 30 years ago. This is where we are today. And probably the next, because depending on your economic and political blueprint, this is where we will be the next 60 years, right? I've seen, take an example of where somebody decided to buy a piece of land, 50 by 100. Then he realizes he's built a 6-bedroom mansionette. Wall to wall, there's no space. Said, I should not have built it this way. This is exactly where we are with the government, yes.
Okay. It reminds me of one thing, Mangicho. There was a time when a day like this one, you could not find anybody in town operating a business, or even in our home centers. Everybody, when it comes to a Jamhuri Day, Madaraka Day, Labor Day, especially Jamhuri Day, we were all in our villages to celebrate together. Even the flags were all over in our shops. Today, I believe if you walk around the city, you will find rarely you find a flag on our shops. But there was a time, even chiefs we used to move around to ensure that everybody attends these functions. I remember when I was in high school in Form 3, Form 4, we used to go to the nearby center to go and celebrate these days, singing the patriotic songs, enjoying the day, but today they are no longer. If you go to a stadium today like the Afra Stadium or Bukungu Stadium, you'll find people are not there. And if they are there, they are being ferried.
That's why I said.
Being paid.
That's why I said Kaging. That's why I said patriotism has been dissolved using political sulfuric acid. We would wake up one morning and we have in fact, these were days we would look forward to.
Yes.
Right? And I believe you also did that. You didn't have to be reminded that tomorrow is Jamhuri Day. In fact, you would even tell your children, I'm getting the finest clothes to make sure we all go to the stadium. They would sit in a sun-scorched stadium to the very end, you know. But today, you ask people to do that, they'll wonder whether we're living in this country.
But and just on that particular note, Kagi, because we have the government today, and of course the head of state will be there, Bonamwidaga, and one of the things that we know is very definite will happen is that the government will outline the achievements.
You think so? I don't think so. I have my doubts. 1 year later, the story of tutafanya, tulifanya, it doesn't work for this country. Look at how Kibaki worked, right? You didn't have to be told that Kibaki was working. The things he did, and I'm sorry to say this, stand to this very day. A good leader listens. A good leader employs wisdom to make sure that things work for the country. And then you get a good team to do that. And I think it should be Proverbs 3 or 4, where a leader, the king is advised to have as many advisors. But when you have 2, 3, speaking to ears telling you, forget about Mangicho. Is Mangicho our opponent? Give him 50 million. The idea of silencing opponents that way. Then this country will not achieve its dreams.
And one of the things, Kagi, even as we talk about these, putting in consideration maybe the state of Kenyans economically and maybe how Kenyans would feel about this particular day. Bonamwidaga, 60 years ago, there is this story that Kenya was at par with Singapore and Malaysia.
One of those documents that has made Singapore what it is today was written in this town. I remember the last group of councillors, the so-called councillors, today they are MCAs, but then they were called councillors, went to Singapore. And, you know, during the benchmarking, the so-called benchmarking, they raised that question and they were told, we got that document from you and worked on it. It was a shame. I remember one of the councillors, and whose name I can't remember, did not even have the meal, just got onto the plane and back home with the others.
You mean the Singapore?
Kenyan councillors. Yeah, he just got onto the plane and came back home together with the others.
You're saying that the Singapore got the...
Yes,
the
from here.
From Kenya.
Yeah. Once I go through my dad's documents, I'll show you. It's a shame. It's a shame because I don't know whose document we're using. Because over the years, we've had magnificent economic blueprints. But they're placed somewhere in the shelves. They're just written for purposes of getting money. You know, the way we have commissions that last for 6-7 months, lawyers make their money and walk away, and that document is not implemented. That's exactly the same strategy. It's unfortunate for our country. And this is why, at this point in time, we have no choice, we the people. I hope you understand.
So the question would be, so what is it that the people of Singapore did that we've not done?
Prime Minister Lee
supposed to do?
Dealt with corruption. You see, it's the cancer in our body politic in this country. He dealt with that. And I remember the current president of the Philippines managed to recover $50 billion within a week. You know, sometimes you need to take that bold step and forget about the judiciary. It has to be that way. You know, when things have to be done and done in the right way, there are times when you need to shelf the judiciary and bulldoze. Because if Kagi has stolen 50 billion, and we know Kagi has 50 billion, but he has the capacity to pay lawyers 100 billion to defend him. Let's have him behind bars.
Are you suggesting there are some circumstances where the law will not be useful?
It will not be useful because, the law is about evidence and about conformity. And I said, the problem with the type of, if we become slaves of our conformity because it's wicked conscience. It's unfortunate because if we are to get that money from you, we have no choice. We know Mangicho has stolen, but then he has to drag us through courts. 2, 3, 4 years, and you know what happens? Mangicho walks scot-free. He's bribed all those fellows, and he's a happy man. We have no choice but to do it that way. We have to bulldoze it so that it sends a clear message to the future generations that corruption is not part of our breakfast, of our lunch, and dinner menu.
As we come to this topic of corruption, because that is where we are heading to, my last question on that, does it mean that we have no opportunity to be able to walk in the Singapore and Malaysia shoes?
We don't have that political goodwill. We don't have it. It doesn't exist. Like I said, it's an utopia ideology. It doesn't exist. Because if I'm committed as president, I should start by getting rid of all those people around me who have corruption cases. What happened? They're all brought back and given jobs.
But we have enough resources to do that.
We have enough
the right
resources.
People who are willing, we have enough resources to be able
to
achieve.
What magic did President Magufuli perform? He didn't borrow money. He just used the money that was being raised by the people because, taxes, money raised from the people. All he needed to do is just widen the tax bracket, not increasing taxes, and then work with that. But in this country, it's unfortunate. It's a story that we hear from morning to evening, and nothing happens.
Okay. Now, Magicho, as we continue, it's good to look at this in the last bit of our program on corruption, the so-called the dragon. And we can look from the time of independence. I don't know whether Muidaga, you can maybe confirm or verify if at independence this dragon was still there.
It was still there. I remember there's arguments within the government over the land issue. And this is why Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and Bill Kagi parted company. Because he asked the question, did we fight to oppress the same people we were fighting for? No, that was not the idea. We're not saying that Mzee Jomo Kenyatta is free of corruption. Not as a person, but his government still practiced that. Right? We had the Moi government, we had the Kibaki government, the Anglo leasing scandals and many other scandals. You see, some of these things are done by people who are either friends of the president and who are closer to power. They take advantage. Yeah, they take advantage. It's the same thing within President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. All in that now we are reaching the climax with Ruto's government.
Yeah. Because Kagi is a weighty point, is a very grave subject that has actually it has affected us so much. Because if you are, and this is something that we always hear, of this comparison being made. I don't know, Bonamilag, when you're talking about we were at the same par with Singapore, how far Singapore ahead of us today?
You don't even want to discuss that here. Because it's a shame. It's a shame. Right? Singapore is too far away. Talk of Kigali, Rwanda, with President Kagame. They're saying he's a dictator, but it's a dictator with good intentions. Look at Kigali today. It's a very sad story that we are learning the idea of getting rid of corruption in the country through Rwanda that suffered genocide 26 or 7 years ago.
They are doing better in terms
about
of
29 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's just amazing. You don't need to go to Singapore. Singapore is so far ahead that you don't even wish to bring it into this discussion. We have a very good example, Rwanda, under President Kagame. Well, they say all sorts of things, but we are witnesses. After 29 years, it's just a magnificent place. Here we don't have the goodwill. I think corruption becomes the menu for breakfast, like I said, lunch and dinner. Yes. And so we enjoy it, and we use it to increase the depth of poverty in this country, so that each time I get onto a political platform, msijali, iko mtu atawapea kitu. So you're given 300, 400, but when you're all seeing Kagi is the best man, when Kagi disappears for 5 years only to return.
But we are spending a lot of money, Mr. Muidaga and Mangicho, to be able to deal with this vice. We have various commissions, we have various bodies which are being used. We are holding many seminars to be able to come up with ways of fighting corruption. Why should we have the anti-corruption authority if it cannot be able to help us to come out of this mess?
The last time I heard people saying that it has what? It cannot bite.
It's a toothless dog. Pierre Lumumba, you know him.
Yes.
He would not entertain that, but he had no choice but to quit. We had, is it Bishop Abukula or somebody? I wonder whether he existed in the first place. You see, Kagi, we've got to a point where we have to say it. We need to secure the future of the young people in this country, the youth, because they'll ask questions. They'll shift blame and ask us, why didn't you manage to do it? Because today we're talking about corruption 60 years later, after re-independence.
60 years.
Yes, and we are still talking about it today. You know, at some point, because I had suggested through my Facebook account that we should introduce a subject on corruption in school, right? So that people get to learn the negative, the vices of corruption as early as PP1, PP2, all the way to grade 13. You know, yeah, because you see, we are now trying to bring up a new generation that must be removed from the problems of this generation, our generation. Yeah.
And it starts at the top to the bottom.
Yes. So that next time you want to elect a leader, they'll tell you, no. Don't give us your money. Tell us what you're able to do. What is it that you will do that is different from Mangicho? You know, when that generation questions you that way, believe me, if you're the type of leader who dishes out money, you're doomed. You are doomed. Forget about politics. Yeah, try something else in life.
Yeah, Kagi, it's quite a weighty matter because, like when Amedagi is saying, it has become so much inculcated in our day-to-day lives that quite a big percentage of Kenyans believe that maybe for one, maybe to get something, they have to part with something. And it's like the mechanisms that have been put into place, they are not working.
It is a tragedy. Go to the land's office. Your file keeps disappearing. You know, it's unfortunate that our files have legs. You know, they have a body. You go there one morning, you want to have a look at your file, and you're told, "Hatujui kule iko." Your file. You know, it's just sad for this country.
But also, we have a big share to blame as citizens because we are not impacting good morals to be able to help our children as far as from PP1 to be able to move to the journey of living corruption-free life. And I remember one of the programs was giving a story of where a mother used to sell milk. But this milk, they used to sell together with their son. And every morning, the mother used to accompany the son to the shop near home. And this woman used to send the son to go and bring water. And this water is being used to be able to add onto the milk, right? And therefore, this son, one day, he went to the church and he felt he needs some money, and he managed to get some of the coins from the offering box where it was being kept. And therefore, when the father was informed about the mother about what the boy is doing, and was beaten thoroughly by the father, and he was asking, why should you beat me and shame me in front of people for taking money, and I have never disclosed to anybody what my mother does? And you see, this boy is trying to justify that because my mom usually what they call baptizes milk, then why should you blame me for taking money in the offering box, right? Yeah. And therefore it can tell you how we are messing around with our generation, also we older people, finally, in our schools. Can you imagine an institution organizes the students right from class 8 or form 4 to be able to cheat in an examination? And after you do that, what message are we sending to these young people? If you can be able to mobilize architect on how we are going to cheat in the examination. Do you expect them tomorrow to become the custodians of morals in our country?
Yes.
It's next to impossible.
Sure. And even as Bonamudaga, you comment on that. Another story Kagi is also told of the head teacher,
yes,
who sent his deputy to tell the pupils to come with 500 shillings to school. So the deputy head teacher tells the children to come with 700 shillings to school. And the kids go and tell the mother, and the mother tells the father, the children have been asked to come with 1,000 shillings.
Are you here now?
At one particular point you vied,
yes,
for an elective seat.
Yes.
And I'm also told the situation is also reflected such that our people back there believe that for them to elect someone, you've got to part with something.
Yeah, that is how some of us lost, because where do you get the money to dish out like that? You know, I mean, if
once you dish out, I'm told you have to recover.
Yeah, how do you recover? You see, an MP earns a salary for about 1.2 or 1.3, right? How else do you recover the money from? Probably the only way to recover your money is to steal CDF funds. And I don't know how else you're supposed to recover. But if you're committed to leadership, you'll even forget the kind of money you spend, right? Because your focus is to solve people's problems. We are not elected to lead animals, but lead people. And you see, just like you said about corruption, the fear of God. We no longer have it, that I can steal and walk away with it. Yeah. And it just won't affect me. I keep asking myself, when you take the Bible and the last phrase is, so help me God, are you asking God to help you to steal? I don't know. Maybe that's the reason as to why they do the sort of thing they do. Then they run to God and tell you, see, I stole, but I'll take care of that. But it's a doomed country.
What do we do? Because I'm looking, and you're given an example of a leader like Professor Piolo Lumumba, who was at the helm of Things and Anti-Corruption Commission. Unfortunately, he had to quit. But can we have a situation whereby we can have leaders who can decide to remain at these particular positions, even if things are to be terrible?
We have a wonderful example of Joyce Nyakago, isn't it? Who has continued to stand her ground. And I respect her. Yes. And she's not afraid. You see, fear those who are able to kill the soul and not the flesh. Right? She stood her ground and she's made it very clear. Money has been mismanaged. I mean, you can't spend 4 billion on local travels and another 14. I don't know what the president is trying to find out there. And then when she says it, you arrest her. Someone with the security of tenure, because you can't touch up until 2027. We have leaders who are prepared to do that. But sometimes they wonder, who are we working for? You see, and that stops those good leaders from coming out in the open to do this work. And the fact that we also lack that support from the masses frustrates the efforts, right? It frustrates the individual and the efforts towards getting rid of corruption. But you know what? That will happen through a full-fledged revolution. I'm not afraid to repeat it, and I repeat it. And this is the only way out, where people have no choice.
Do you think it is that serious? That
it is serious.
It is not checked. We've heard of failed states when...
What are we talking about? What is a failed state? How would you, Kagi, define a failed state? A failed state is when things are not working for the people. And when everybody is complaining. A salaried person and one who's not salaried. If both are complaining, then we are referred to as a failed state. It's only a matter of time before you call it a day. Yeah.
And sometimes we need to make deliberate, as you said earlier, actions on how to deal with this vice. I admire some Asian countries who are very good at this. Talk of China and maybe Korea and Japan. if someone is found guilty of any, they call it misappropriation of funds, misuse of office, they have a way of dealing with you. I'm not advocating for it, but some of these countries, once you've been found guilty, you're just close to your death.
That's why we refer to it as a deliberate.
Are you talking about capital offense? I mean, capital, is it capital punishment?
In Japan, you're given a sword to kill yourself.
Yourself?
Yes. Right? In Kenya, a corrupt leader is elected.
Yeah, true.
You remember what PLO Lumumba said?
Yes.
It is our brand of politics. It's very strange.
And once you touch them, you're touching this community.
One morning, you have an MCA who is a village fool coming to share wisdom with the church. These are not my words. These are PLO Lumumba. Yes. And that's where we are as a country. That becomes very, very difficult, even for the chair of EACC to fight corruption, because where is he going to report it to? You go to the DCI, they twist the story. The other day, they invaded Uhuru Kenyatta's son's home. Then, about 6-7 months later, what did the DCI say? We had nothing to do with that. So who did it? It's unfortunate for this country.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
And of course, remember the story of the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, that we are losing close to 2 billion shillings per day. And nobody came to be able to seal those loopholes. That means if his findings were true, that means even today we are moving on the same trend, that we are losing 2 billion shillings per day if we have never come to be able to seal these loopholes.
How are we losing the 2 billion? Because I would ask the former president, how are we losing the 2 billion shillings? You see, that's where we begin from, right? How are we losing the 2 billion? You close the loopholes, and you know the loopholes, right? How has President Kagame managed to do that? Out of 5, say 3 policemen who you'll find around Kigali, you can't bribe them. I remember a Kenyan team went to play at the Amahoro Stadium. They enjoyed their bananas. So this fellow who was around there, the guard, did not question them. They threw them like, we have very strange manners. They threw them all over. So they got into the bus and drove all the way to the Rwandan-Ugandan border. So when they got there, they were told by one of the guards, you've done a good thing, we love visitors. Unfortunately, there's you practice some bad manners somewhere and you'll have to go back. That's a journey of 300 kilometers back to Kigali. And they had to do it.
To collect the letter.
That commitment to a deliberate way of doing things, because the judiciary is another circus. Kenyan judiciary is another circus. Today they say we've ruled out that housing levies are unconstitutional. Tomorrow it's there, man. They give it a stay up until January. What are we talking about?
But still continue.
The stay until January. What are you telling us?
Yes.
So most of these things are jokes.
So Bwana Midhaga, because we're even here now to find out what we can do to make things turn around, even as we mark 60 years of Jamhuri, and Kenyans would want at least to see something happening, not just a matter of just going to the stadium and coming back with no hope, with no faith, very gloomy. When you're talking about a revolution, how does it begin? Where does it start from?
It begins when the cyclone called Tired hits the shores of this country. I hope you understand my language. Because at the moment, when you talk to the common people, and everybody will tell you, we are just fed up. We want change. And if this is happening, not to one person, not to 3 people, not to 5 people, but to all of us, then believe me, it will happen. You see, this idea of saying it cannot happen in this country is a mirage. If you had believed that sort of thing, it would not have happened in Gabon, it would not have happened in Mali, it would not have happened in Burkina Faso. When people decided, no, enough is enough, whether it was a military coup or just a revolution by the people. And you know what the president said? The former president, make noise. You steal from people, you oppress people, and then you tell other leaders in the world, make noise, make noise, make noise. What noise are you making? It's a tragedy for our country. It is time to tell our leaders to their faces that enough is enough. If you can't manage this job, there's no harm in resigning and taking up another job or going home and let somebody else who is committed to the leadership of this country and to humanity.
Yeah, you don't think there is any hope of solving this issue during our elections after every 5 years?
We don't, because it's the same fairy tale. It's the same fairy tale. Yes. Yeah, after 5 years, telling Mankicho the same stories I told him about 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Something has to be done. We need a radical change and a revolution of what Dr. King used to call a revolution of values.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now this should come from the people.
The people themselves. It's a people-driven thing. We, the people.
We, the people.
Yeah, which includes Mankicho and Kagi and everybody else.
I remember during Kibaki's reign in his first term, people had decided to fight the corruption on our roads, the traffic stuff. I remember there are many people who are boarding matatus. When they see a driver maybe giving police a bribe, they could yell all over the vehicle and say, no, this cannot happen. I remember some of the passengers told the police to return the money to the driver. Yeah. And I wish we continue that trend.
No, just we cheer them.
You know why, Kagi?
In fact, if in a matatu can also be participating by picking the money and passing it to.
You know why people are doing that? Because there was the rebirth of patriotism.
Yeah.
One, they believed in a leader. They had faith in that leader. That he made his promises, and the promises that worked. Yeah. So that also trickles down to the people. Oh, so our leader, the president, is honest. He's forthright. So we have no choice as a people. We should be that reflection.
Yeah, I'm being prompted to ask a more deliberate, more personal question. And when your dad was one of the first group of leaders in this country, member of parliament, and maybe to be able to understand more what you are talking about, because they were there in the first years of our country, maybe what did you learn from him that has kept you going in terms of patriotism and integrity as a leader?
There's one thing he taught us. Do not allow corruption to become your daily bread. You know? He was very, very strict on that.
He told you on Facebook?
Yes, he told all of us. Not just me, but he kept repeating it.
Yeah.
If you were to die, what would be your epitaph? Incorruptible. That was my dad. He never entertained that. He was one among the 2 MPs. On the return journey to Kenya, they would, if his change is 200 shillings, he would take it back to the treasury. And the treasury would ask him, why? I remember there's a certain time I think his car broke down, and so he had to catch a matatu, the so-called repesis. They were charging 100 bob. So he went to Parliament, he presented the receipt. So one of the clerks said to him, why don't you want to claim 500? He said, I've spent 100 shillings. And he gave out the receipt, because Mzee never was without receipts. And that is the culture we've adopted. So if that is possible with one family, I believe it's possible with all our leaders.
You saw it with your own eyes?
Yes.
You witnessed it?
I saw that,
yeah.
Yes. And I remember, I want to say it for the very first time, a certain group of Asians came home with a briefcase that contained 1 million shillings in that briefcase. So they wanted a piece of land up there. I don't know what it was that they wanted to do. My uncle was seated on one side and my dad was in the middle. He'd just woken up. So they told him, we've come to talk to you, but I'm sorry, that group of people was a very funny group. So they opened the briefcase and said, Mzee, we brought you breakfast so that we can talk about the other issues. Mzee just stood up and told them, close their briefcase and get out. He told the guard out there,
close the breakfast.
Get them out of here. So my uncle blamed Mzee. I mean, 1 million shillings.
How can you let it just go like this?
So he told my uncle, my mama's brother, you follow them. Yeah. You join them as they walk out.
And that time, 1 million shillings was a lot of money.
Which year was that?
80. He was an assistant minister for labor before he became assistant minister for tourism and wildlife. And that's exactly how we've grown up. Yeah, so that when we walk in town or wherever, we are not afraid, we are not ashamed.
Yes.
Yeah. He may not have been a rich man, but we are happy. Yeah. Because after all, even if you amassed wealth after wealth in this world, what will you take to your grave? Because you'll be alone in that grave.
Right.
Yeah. So nobody will remind you that you have a 4 million worth watch or 5 million worth suit to join you there. You'll just be buried for the mere sake of respecting a dead person, and that will be the end of it. And we walk away to begin life anew.
Correct.
Can you imagine, Mangicho, our leaders having that kind of culture? I think is a very good example of what Midaga has really told us, that our leaders, if they decide on the same, it is very, very possible. We're having a few seconds to finalize the program. It has been very, very engaging. Yes. Yeah, Mangicho.
Sure. And I think even the parting shot and actually telling us about that particular incident of our guest dad, that is Honorable Mark Midaga. I think that is very important.
Yeah.
And we need to learn from this. We need to learn from this, because at the end of the day, caregiving, as we mark these 60 years, this is our country.
Yes.
And we don't have any other place to go.
All right. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Midaga, for coming here, Anthony, to our program. Thank you for your rich elaboration on these matters, and wish you a happy Jamhuri Day. All right. Thank you for watching us today. It was a special program on Jamhuri Tuesday. I want to thank you for finding time to be able to watch us from here. My name is Paul Kagi. I wish you a very nice Jamhuri Day.
And my name is Mangicho Mola. Of course, we'll be with you again tomorrow for Wednesday Leadership.